Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Change Up. Now, just when I thought this offseason was getting boring, we have our first blockbuster trade of the year. Brandon Nimmo of the Mets is being sent to the Texas Rangers for Marcus Semien in a complete one-to-one trade. Now, this is one of the trades of all time, as they say, because I feel like it doesn't really benefit either side, but let's get more in depth here. Let's look at Brandon Nimmo first and why the Mets might have wanted to move on from him. Now, for the Mets, this was clearly about trying to free up a position in the outfield for a potential free agent/trade. Brandon Nimmo's getting a little bit older going into his 33-year-old season next year, and his defense has been slowly declining as of late, having been moved from the center field position to a corner outfield spot. He's still got a pretty good bat, but definitely not as good as it was in 2023 and 2022. And in general, the contract he's on right now just isn't looking quite as good as it was when they first signed it. Taking a look at Marcus Semien, he is definitely a glove-first guy at this point in his career, going on 35 next season. The bat's declining a little bit here, and he's owed $5 million more than Brandon Nimmo for the next couple of seasons before the third season here where he is owed the same amount of money. Now, one of the main differences here is that Brandon Nimmo is going to be signed through the 2030 season, while Marcus Semien is only on the books until the 2028 season. But as I said before, Marcus Semien is 35, while Brandon Nimmo is going on 33 next season, so it's kind of going to even out to be the same thing at the end. Both players will end up being 37 by the time the contract expires. The Rangers will just be paying for Nimmo for a couple of seasons longer than they would have been for Semien, just to get a couple of seasons of his prime. Now let's take a look at why each of these teams might have wanted to make this trade, starting off here with the Mets. Now for the Mets, I think it really just comes down to a roster construction move. The Mets and their previous GM Billy Epler signed Brandon Nimmo to an 8-year, $162 million deal after his 2022 campaign, in which he was both a great defender and a well above average bat. However, Nimmo has been regressing these past couple of seasons, moving from the center field spot to a corner outfield spot and having his defensive metrics still not really improve. Now, I think this is one of the prime reasons the Mets were interested in this trade, because the Mets were really bad last year when looking at their defense. And while Brandon Nimmo certainly wasn't the worst of the players they had last season, he also wasn't all that good. His defense was one of the main reasons he got the contract he did from the Mets, and seeing it decline season by season, as well as the bat a little bit, that probably had the Mets thinking they could improve there. While Marcus Semien is a little older and certainly less productive with the bat, I do think the fact that they'll have to pay him for less years is something the Mets liked. This gives them the flexibility to sign a free agent to a longer-term deal and get better at that position while not paying all that much more to get out of the contract. Now, disclaimer, nobody in the Mets organization thinks Marcus Semien is going to go back to his 2023 self. This was purely about moving a contract that they didn't like and getting back a guy who's being paid for less time. Semien could also sneakily help them out a lot on defense, as he's always been great with the glove. Now, as for the Rangers, I think this is a move that makes a lot of sense for them. The Rangers had a very poor offense last year, and Marcus Semien was one of the main culprits with his under 700 OPS. The Rangers have also expressed their hesitancy to spend this offseason due to some money issues they've been having, so this is a great way for them to improve their offense while saving a bit of money at the same time. They'll definitely miss Semien's glove at second base, but I think they'll have plenty of options to look at internally, such as moving Josh Smith over to second or calling up one of their top prospects, Sebastian Walcott. I'm also wondering what kind of implications this will have on the free agency side of things. The big question on everybody's mind, of course, is does this mean the Mets will be interested in a guy like Kyle Tucker? To that, I'll say I'm not sure. While the Mets have more money than any other team in baseball, they do have Juan Soto locked up long term, and I do think they'll have more pressing issues to look at, such as their starting pitching and defense, as well as retaining the free agents they already have. I think a much more likely candidate for the Mets would be a guy like Cody Bellinger or Harrison Bader. Someone who would help your defense out while being cheaper and having less time committed to the contract. For the Rangers, I hesitate to say this, but I think this might be the big move for them. I think they'll certainly make other smaller moves to fill in some of the cracks, but I think the appeal of this move to the Rangers front office was the fact that they can improve on offense right now for less money than they'd already be paying. I wouldn't be holding my breath for the Rangers to make another big move after getting off of Semien's contract and taking on another big one that's longer. But I also wouldn't rule out another trade from the Rangers, as they still have a good enough team to compete next season, and their front office has shown that they're not afraid to get creative. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It really does mean a lot to me. All in all, this trade is really interesting. I think it benefits both teams pretty evenly. I'm seeing a lot of people say that the Mets were fleeced and that the Rangers won the trade big time. And while I do think the Rangers came out a little bit on top if I had to pick, I still think this was a very beneficial move for both teams. If you enjoyed the content, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I do baseball content like this all the time, so make sure to keep tuning in if you enjoyed it. And as always, I will see you all in the next video.